I'm standing here on 5th Street in downtown Huntington Beach. Right behind me is the Shorebreak Hotel. But back in the 1920s, it was the Surf Theater that stood there for more than 60 years. The Surf Theater is completely gone. At least that's what most people think. But we're going to show you a couple of pieces that still remain.
I'm Chris Epting. I'm an author and storyteller, and I love the history of Huntington Beach, especially the hidden history. For the past 2 seasons, we've helped uncover many little-known stories that help illuminate the past. Now, join us as we dig deeper and discover even more secrets. Welcome to Hidden Huntington Beach, Season 3.
The Surf Theater opened in the 1920s and was a Huntington Beach landmark for more than 60 years. It went by a number of other names over the years, but it's best remembered as the Surf. An important part of the theater still remains just a few blocks away at the International Surfing Museum. Legendary surfer and museum director Peter P.T. Towan invited us to see the pieces of the theater history along with some other special hidden Huntington Beach history. So PT, before we go inside to the Surf Museum, we got to talk about this. Take me back to that day, what it was like. You were kind of in charge of this, right?
Well, we have the world's biggest surfboard and also the Guinness record holder for the most people on a wave on a board in history. We had
When was this? How many years ago?
This was 5 years ago. It was 2015. It was the year after the 100th anniversary of surfing at the pier.
And there's a story about going out in the desert in hunt of the original board, right?
Well, originally the first board was made in Australia by a guy called Nev Hyman, and they actually had a record. I think it was 47, so we smashed the record. But that board then came over. They brought it over, and we did it at the U.S. Open. But it was never a record because they didn't do the Guinness thing. You have to get the Guinness guy to come and his little counter and do that whole thing. And so we Google Earthed that it was out in Corona, and Don McAllister and I went out there, and this is a great story. So Don McAllister and I see it, and we drive through the fence of this farmer's house, and all of a sudden,
board is there.
The board's there, and we just drive in. The gate was open, and all of a sudden there's a farmer coming with a gun rack in the back, and we're going, "Oh my God, we're in trouble now." And we got to talk to him, and he said, "Well, you know, I think he said $60,000 if you wanted to take the board." And I said to Don, I go, "We can build one for that."
And you did.
We did, and actually it did cost $75,000 to build one. And you're building a boat, you know. And we went, well, the old one was 39 feet, so we're going to make it 42 feet, all right? So we got the world's biggest surfboard.
And how many people were on it?
66.
PT, where exactly were you on the board that day?
I was right on the HB sign, the one that's right in the middle, because I was the guy in the middle that decided this is the wave, we're on it, we're going to break the record. Because what has to happen when someone makes that call, the jet skis have to disengage because the stopwatch doesn't start till the jet skis let go of the board. Right, and we had to do it for 10 seconds, and we did 12 seconds. We landed on the beach on 12 seconds.
And there were a couple of dry runs that happened before, right?
Well, we had done the tow around down Newport Harbor with just me standing on it to get a feel of the flow. You just like a surfboard, you have to feel if it's going to be on a wave. How's it going to plane? And so I got towed around Newport Harbor by myself the few days before, and then and so I could tell when we were on the wave. I knew this is it. We're on. Let's go. Jet skis out of here, right? And we pulled it off.
Now you said that there's going to be an attempt in the future to best that record.
Right.
What's the plan?
Yeah. So next year on California Surfing Day, which is September 20th, we're going to get it down a couple of months before and refurbish it, and we're going to try and break the record. We know we've done all the logistics and how many people and how much more weight, and we can add 4 more. So we're going to go for 70.
Could there maybe be a space for me the next time out on that board?
We're going to get you on there, mate. We'll have you right there next to me on the HB sign.
PT, this is awesome. Of course, everybody should come. If you haven't seen it already, it's worth checking out. Let's go inside the museum now. You're going to show me not just pieces of the Surf Theater, but some other great pieces of hidden history as well, right?
Yeah, there's some really hidden stuff in there that people don't even realize.
Let's check it out.
Well, here we are, Chris.
Back again, PT.
Back
it's good
again
to be here.
The museum.
All right, so as I said in my setup early on, we're looking for pieces of the surf theater, all that basically remains. And you've got, this is what we're here for, initially the 4 letters that were on the side of the building. These are incredible artifacts.
Well, yeah, this is one of the most iconic downtown pieces of history, the Surf Theater that was on 5th Street. And these letters go way, way back. And for them to actually survive,
thank goodness somebody thought to save these.
Right.
They easily could have wound up on the garbage heap. Now, you actually went to the surf theater back in the 70s, right? What was that like?
Surf movies in the 70s were a cultural experience. Everybody went to the surf movies because we didn't have the internet and we didn't have YouTube and all this stuff, you know, that we have now. And so you lived for the next surf movie. And this was one of the most iconic places to come see them. And everybody turned up. I mean, you'd see the lines. The lines would be, 200 deep.
I was going to say, the surf theater opened in the 20s, showed all kinds of movies, but really surf culture. Guys would come in and directors would narrate their work live in the theater like that. It was a real experience. Right. In addition to the letters from the surf theater, you've got a couple of chairs in storage as well, right?
There's a couple of seats there. We'll drag them out at some point. But yeah, last year, actually, we started for the first time summer surf movies in the parking lot with a blow-up screen, which we showed a couple of the classics.
Right.
One of them, 5 Summer Stories, which was, of course, at the Surf Theater.
Incredible. Soundtrack by Honk, right?
Right, Honk.
Who played at the Golden Bear a lot.
Oh, yeah, just saw them. They're still playing.
All right, so these letters you're going to take care of and protect. These are super important. Now that we're in here, though, you've got some other pieces of hidden history we're going to look at. So why don't we kind of wander a bit?
Yeah, well, there's plenty of little pieces in here that people just don't even realize.
All right, PT, tell us about the bust of Duke Kahanamoku here.
Well, as you know, Duke's kind of our godfather of the surfing culture, and when they did the pier, I not remember exactly when they did the new pier, but Duke's bust was at the forefront of the pier, and then later on they changed all that, and of course we were fortunate enough that the city let us have the bust put in the museum.
It used to be right at the head of the pier.
It used to be right at the head. There used to be a little circular thing right there back in the days of back to the fishermen's.
Right.
And so then we got to inherit it right here.
Now, Duke was in Huntington Beach a number of times. We know that he was our friend, the great local artist Rick Blake actually depicts him at Sam's Seafood on Coast Highway. He ate there. But in the early 60s, he came here.
Even earlier than that, though, he did come. He used to come down from Hollywood to surf Corona Del Mar. And then he did come up here at one point in time, and our original surfers, Higgins and Gene Belch, those guys had him up here at one point in time early on. But then he used to come as the guest of honor of the U.S. Surfing Championships.
There are pictures of him with Johnny Weissmuller, I think, 60s, on the pier.
And they had the Duke Kahanamoku trophy for the all-round waterman, and he was here to present it a few times.
Now, you never met him, but you surfed in his tournaments a lot, you said, right?
Yeah, I was invited to the Duke Kahanamoku Hawaiian Surf Classic in Hawaii in '72, and then I was in that championship for the next 11 years. Used to be the one on ABC Wide World of Sports.
Of course.
And it was an incredible honor to be invited to that tournament because it was for your ability to surf Sunset Beach, which is one of the premier big wave spots.
We've also got, of course, the statue of Duke right by Main and PCH. Right. She really kind of factors large in our city history, so it's nice that this is where the original bust is.
He had such an influence on the culture of surfing, and what's really interesting, I think, this year is his dream came true that surfing got in the Olympics, because even though he was not an Olympic surfer, he was an Olympic swimmer, won many gold medals, but he always wanted his sport, what he said was his sport, was surfing in the Olympics, and it's come true.
Let's keep moving through and find some more stuff. Now, PT, this looks familiar in a larger form. Talk about this sculpture.
Well, it's Ed Schubert who did the statue that's the entrance from the south side of Huntington Beach, right there when you get to Huntington and PCH. You'll see it standing right there.
Very famous, very iconic.
This is one of the trophies that was annually awarded, a perpetual trophy for the U.S. Championships back in the day. And then he did a bunch of these for different things. I actually have one for a championship in Hawaii that I got, and a smaller version like this big, but it's a pretty incredible piece that's relevant to the history of Huntington
And
Beach.
it's very iconic. This is something,
Yeah.
it's a photo op for people,
Right.
and it really is very,
Right.
very popular. Now, one of the, I think, the most significant thing you've got, one of the most significant pieces in the city is right behind me. Why don't we walk back? It's something I'm dying for you to tell me about.
Yeah, I mean, this one's probably the biggest history piece in the building.
Well, PT, it doesn't get a lot more significant than this. The original Huntington Beach pier cornerstone going back to 1914. This was the pier that replaced the original pier.
Right.
But it has a lot of significance. Talk a little bit about what the day was like when this pier opened. There was a guy named George Freeth
Right.
that some people may not know about. Talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, well, so this was the first concrete pier in America, so it was really important. And Henry Huntington had George Freeth doing demonstrations up in the South Bay. And so they decided, oh, we better have a surfing demonstration at the new pier in Huntington. And Henry Huntington brought him down on the red car. And of course, that day was the first time anyone surfed in Surf City, and that's where Surf City began.
We know the name Duke Kahanamoku very well in terms of surf history, but George Freeth isn't as well known. Why do you think that is?
I think George Freeth's forgotten in the fact that he was the guy that kind of brought surfing back in a way when the missionaries, had said surfing's not good for it, and he started surfing again in Waikiki in the late 1800s, and Duke was just a boy, and Duke fitted under him. And then when Freeth came to California, in the South Bay, he was also in the Los Angeles Athletic Club as a swim trainer, and that Duke was training there at different times. So he had a tremendous impact.
What do you think of when you see this piece, though, when you think about what the unveiling had to be like? I mean, this is really...
Well, just the fact that we saved it, that to me is what's really important. And, that's what this whole hidden HB, that some of these things have survived. That could have just got smashed up in the demolition, and yet it made it itself into the Surf Museum.
It did. I'm glad it's here at the Surf Museum. Now, here at the museum, you've got an exhibit that's dedicated. A lot of, obviously, innovators came out of surf culture in Huntington Beach. One of those innovators, you have a great display dedicated to here. Why don't we go look at that right now?
Yep.
All right, PT, the sign says Surfboards by Gordy. This exhibit is obviously dedicated to the one and only
Garry Dwayne, and to notice they didn't even spell surfboards correctly.
I always wondered about that. Didn't matter, though.
They did after the fact. They put it up, and then Garry went, we'll just leave it.
Talk about him a little bit, what he meant to Huntington Beach and what he really accomplished while he was here.
Well, if you think about it, without guys like Garry, we wouldn't be Surf City. From point of view, the first surf shop pretty much in this area, it was only, I think, Hobie before that down in Dana Point, and Velzy around down in San Clemente. But, Garry Dwayne, founded Gardy Surfboards, and it became an institution.
You knew him. What are your memories of Gardy, PT?
Grumpy. I mean, everyone will tell you that, but, he was the ruler of the roost, the Hole in the Wall gang, which was a huge surf team that he had, that won championships together, and so he was a huge influence on so many people in Huntington Beach.
In terms of Gardy hidden history, you've got some of his actual tools, you've got old school jackets that go back to his team. Talk about these a little bit.
Yeah, some of his tools and his templates, these are the original ones that he used, because today, your surfboards are all pretty much built by a machine and computerized CAD drawings and stuff. But in those days, you got a blank of foam and you sculpted a blank of foam to make a surfboard.
PT, in addition to great exhibits like this one dedicated to Gardy, throughout the museum you've decided to incorporate the artwork of a lot of local artists. Talk about the thinking behind that.
Well, we decided for a change of installations that we would incorporate a group of artists into telling the story through their paintbrush. And so along with the actual photographic evidence, you have the art of these guys. And we're going to continue to do that with all our exhibitions from now on.
PT, you love music as much as I do. The fact that we're both standing where the stage at Safari Sam's used to be, because this building housed in the mid-'80s for a couple of years Safari Sam's Club, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, this location has huge cultural significance to Huntington Beach, and it's fun to sit in here and think about the nights that have been had in here, there are probably some pretty rowdy ones, I would think.
PT, for the museum, again, we're coming back out of the pandemic. Everything looks amazing. Thank you to you and your team for all you're doing here to celebrate surf culture, local art, and everything in between. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, we really feel like now we're a museum. You can come in here and learn a lot about the history of California, particularly with this exhibit, the Finding California Surf.
PT, thank you for having us in here today. We really appreciate it. I want to thank you as well for watching the show. If you want to learn more about the hidden history of Huntington Beach, we have a Facebook group we've created, which is simply called Hidden Huntington Beach. 13,000 plus members there today are sharing stories and photos and everything else. So check that out. But in the meantime, PT, thank you for having us in here today. This was a really great visit.
Thanks for coming for a visit to the Huntington Beach International Surfing Museum, and you're welcome anytime.